Welcome back to the Audacity of Him, the channel where we dive deep into the bottomless pit of male entitlement and fish out the most unbelievable, cringe-inducing, and ultimately satisfying stories on the internet. If you've ever had a man try to aggressively mansplain your own sexuality to you, go ahead and hit that like button right now because today's story is going to resonate with you on a spiritual level. Today's tale comes from a good friend of mine. Let's call her Emma. Now, you need to picture Emma to fully understand the dynamic of this story. She is stunning, drop-dead gorgeous, knows how to dress, and carries herself with the kind of effortless confidence that naturally draws attention in any room. She lives in Chicago, and if you know anything about Chicago, you know the people there don't suffer fools at all. It was a Friday night in mid-November, the kind of night where the wind off Lake Michigan cuts through your coat, making the warmth of a dimly lit neighborhood bar feel like absolute heaven. Emma was out with 3 of her best girlfriends. They had snagged a cozy leather booth near the back of a popular, slightly upscale dive bar, a place where the bartenders pour heavy, the jukebox plays classic rock, and the regulars all know each other. They were celebrating a promotion, laughing loudly, sipping craft cocktails, and just enjoying a drama-free girls' night out. Enter our hero. We'll call him Liam. Liam was in his mid-30s, conventionally attractive in a very manufactured way. He had the slick-backed hair, the expensive but overly potent cologne that announces a man's presence 3 minutes before he actually arrives, and the smug, self-satisfied grin of a guy who thinks he's God's gift to the entire female population. He was at the bar with 2 of his buddies, but, as Emma put it, his eyes were locked on me like a heat-seeking missile. Emma noticed him staring, but she did what women have mastered since the dawn of time, the strategic ignore. She kept her eyes on her friends, kept her body language closed, and gave 0 opening for an approach. But Liam, armed with the audacity of him, didn't care about social cues. He detached himself from his friends, smoothed down his expensive blazer, and strolled over to their table. He didn't just stand near the table, he leaned over it, invading their space, his cologne immediately overpowering the smell of their truffle fries. "Ladies," Liam purred, flashing a practiced predatory smile. He looked directly at Emma. "A woman as beautiful as you shouldn't have an empty glass. What are you drinking? The next round is on me." Emma offered a polite, tight-lipped smile. The universal, "please go away" smile. "I'm fine, thank you. We're just having a girls' night." "A girls' night doesn't mean you can't be treated like queens," Liam insisted, leaning in a little closer. "Seriously, whatever you want. Top shelf. Just let me pull up a chair." "I appreciate the offer," Emma said, her voice dropping to a firmer, cooler tone. "But I'm actually in a relationship. I'm not interested." Now, to a normal, well-adjusted human being, "I'm in a relationship and not interested" means, "have a good night. I'll leave you alone." But in Liam's world, it was apparently a negotiation tactic. "Oh, come on," Liam scoffed, a condescending chuckle escaping his lips. "He's not here, is he? A guy who leaves his girl looking this good alone at a bar on a Friday night is a fool. Let me buy the drinks. It's just a drink." Before Emma could shut him down again, Liam turned to the passing waitress and aggressively flagged her down. "Excuse me, sweetheart. Bring another round of whatever they're having and bring a double Macallan for me. Put it all on my tab." The waitress looked at Emma. Emma sighed and gave a tiny, defeated nod to the waitress, mostly because she didn't want to make the poor server's life difficult. But the vibe at the table had instantly shifted from joyful celebration to icy hostility. Liam, mistaking Emma's silence for submission, practically forced his way into the edge of the booth, crowding Emma's friend Olivia. Olivia is not someone you want to crowd. Olivia is 5'2" of pure, unfiltered Chicago attitude. Did someone invite you to sit down? Olivia snapped, glaring at Liam's loafers. Because I'm pretty sure we were having a private conversation before you dragged your midlife crisis over to our table. Liam blinked, clearly taken aback. He tried to laugh it off. Feisty friends, huh? I like that. I'm just being friendly. You're being annoying, chimed in Isla, Emma's other friend, taking a slow sip of her martini. She said she's taken. You bought the drinks. Congratulations on your immense wealth. Now you can go back to your bros. Liam's smile tightened. The charm was starting to crack, revealing the fragile ego underneath. He looked back at Emma, ignoring her friends entirely. You let your friends speak for you? I'm just trying to have a conversation with the prettiest girl in the room. What's your boyfriend's problem that he isn't treating you right? Emma had reached her limit. The polite rejection hadn't worked. The hostile friends hadn't worked. It was time to just lay out the undeniable, biological reality of the situation in hopes that it would short-circuit his brain. Emma looked Liam dead in the eyes, her expression completely flat. Liam, listen to me very carefully. I don't have a boyfriend. I have a girlfriend. I am a lesbian. I date women. I am gay. There is absolutely nothing you possess, physically, emotionally, or financially, that I have any interest in. At all. The table went silent. Even the ambient noise of the bar seemed to dull for a second. Over at the bar, Liam's two friends were watching the interaction. They could read the body language. They knew their boy was crashing and burning. One of them actually winced and tried to subtly wave Liam back over. But Liam didn't retreat. Instead, a slow, incredibly irritating smirk spread across his face. He leaned back slightly, crossing his arms. The audacity was about to reach astronomical levels. A lesbian, Liam said, letting the word roll around in his mouth like he was tasting it. He shook his head slowly, a pitying look in his eyes. Right, sure you are. Listen, sweetie. Don't call me sweetie, Emma warned, her voice dangerously quiet. A lot of women say that, Liam continued, completely ignoring her warning, bulldozing right over her boundaries. It's a phrase. Or you've just had bad experiences with guys. Honestly, it just means you haven't had the right man yet. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he pulled the magic wand card. The absolute peak of male delusion. The idea that a woman's deeply ingrained sexual orientation is simply a placeholder until a guy wearing too much hair gel and a fake Rolex comes along to fix her. Olivia literally dropped her jaw. Isla set her drink down so hard the glass clinked sharply against the table. Are you out of your mind? Olivia asked, her voice raising. Did you seriously just say that? I'm just being honest, Liam defended, throwing his hands up, looking at Emma with this sickeningly confident gaze. I've turned girls before. It's not a big deal. You're too pretty to just give up on men. Let me take you out on a real date. I guarantee by the end of the night, you won't be thinking about your girlfriend. The tension at the table was thick enough to cut with a chainsaw. Emma was visibly shaking with anger. She was trying to calculate the legal ramifications of throwing her drink directly into his eyes. Liam's friends at the bar were now actively trying to call his name. Hey man, Liam, let's go. Come on, bro. But Liam was in the zone. He was determined to conquer this mountain. It was getting weird. It was getting uncomfortable. And then the heavy wooden doors of the bar swung open. A blast of cold Chicago air blew into the room, followed immediately by two figures in dark blue uniforms. It was Officer Sarah and her partner, Officer Mike. Now let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah is Emma's girlfriend. She's also a Chicago police officer, and she does not play. She is fit, imposing, and wears that uniform with a level of authority that commands instant respect. Her partner, Mike, is a guy who looks like he eats bricks for breakfast. A massive, bearded teddy bear of a man to his friends, but a terrifying wall of muscle to anyone breaking the law. This bar was on their beat. It was their neighborhood. The moment they walked in, the bartender threw up a hand. "Hey, Sarah! Hey, Mike! The usual?" "Just coffees tonight, Tommy," Sarah called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "Just checking in." Several regulars waved. A few people said hello. The respect was obvious. Sarah's eyes scanned the room, doing the automatic threat assessment that all cops do before her gaze landed on Emma's booth. Her face immediately softened into a warm, loving smile. But as she started walking toward the booth, her highly trained eyes noticed the body language. She saw her gorgeous girlfriend looking furious. She saw Olivia and Isla looking like they were ready to commit a felony. And then she saw Liam, looming over their table entirely too close. The cop smile vanished. The authoritative Chicago PD face locked into place. Sarah walked over, resting her hand casually on her heavy-duty belt. Officer Mike, sensing the shift in his partner, followed closely behind, looming silently just a few feet back. Sarah stepped right up to the edge of the booth, placing herself between Liam and Emma. She didn't look at Liam yet. She looked down at Emma. "Hey, babe," Sarah said, her voice gentle but firm enough for Liam to hear. "Everything okay here?" Emma's whole demeanor instantly relaxed. She looked up at Sarah, a smug, brilliant smile spreading across her face. "Hey, honey, I'm so glad you're here. We were just having a little pest problem." Liam finally registered what was happening. He looked at the uniform. He looked at the badge. He looked at the gun on her hip. Then he looked at Emma. His brain, however, was still operating on the Audacity software update. Instead of realizing he had just hit a brick wall at 100 miles an hour and backing away, his fragile masculinity went into defensive overdrive. He felt humiliated in front of his friends, in front of the bar, and in front of the women he was trying to impress. So, he doubled down, and he made the biggest mistake of his life. Liam let out a loud, obnoxious laugh. A laugh so fake and grating it could strip paint. "Oh, I get it now," Liam practically shouted, throwing his hands up in mock surrender. He looked Sarah up and down, his eyes dripping with disdain. "I get why you're a lesbian now, sweetheart." He pointed a finger at Sarah. "Because she's the man in the relationship. Look at her. Might as well be dating a dude in that outfit." The entire corner of the bar went dead silent. The jukebox seemed to get quieter. The bartender, Tommy, actually stopped pouring a beer, set the glass down, and grabbed a bar towel, leaning over the counter with a look that clearly said, "Oh, this is gonna be good." Olivia and Isla looked at Liam like he was a dead man walking. Officer Mike, standing behind Sarah, let out a slow, deep sigh and shook his head pityingly. Sarah didn't yell. She didn't get flustered. She didn't even look angry. She just turned her head slowly, looking at Liam with the cold, dead eyes of a predator analyzing its prey. She looked at him the way you look at gum stuck to the bottom of your shoe. "Is that right, sir?" Sarah asked, her voice dropping into the terrifyingly calm, even tone of a professional police officer executing a duty. "Yeah, that's right." Liam puffed his chest out, trying to maintain his bravado, but his voice cracked slightly. "It's a joke. Lighten up, officer." "I'm incredibly light, sir," Sarah said, stepping 1/2 step closer to him. "But you seem to be causing a disturbance here. These ladies have asked you to leave, have they not?" "I bought them drinks. I was just making conversation." "I'll take that as a yes," Sarah interrupted smoothly. She pulled a small flashlight from her belt, clicking it on and shining it briefly near Liam's chest, taking in his general appearance. I'm going to need you to step away from this booth. Now. Liam hesitated, his ego warring with his self-preservation. Or what? It's a free country. I'm a paying customer. Or, Officer Mike finally spoke up, his voice like a low rumble of thunder. We are going to have a much longer, much less pleasant conversation outside in the cold. Step away. Now. Liam scoffed, muttering something under his breath that sounded like fascists and bitches, but he finally took a step back. Fine, I'm leaving. This place is dead anyway. He turned to walk back to his friends. Hold on a second, sir. Sarah's voice snapped out like a whip. Liam froze. He slowly turned back around. What now? You've been drinking, causing a disturbance, and harassing patrons, Sarah stated, her eyes locked onto his. And to be honest, you're acting a little erratic. I need to see your identification. Liam's face went pale. The smugness evaporated completely, replaced by a sudden, very real panic. My ID? Why do you need to see my ID? I didn't break any laws. I was just talking. Failure to produce identification when lawfully requested during an investigation of a disturbance is an arrestable offense, sir, Sarah recited flawlessly, not blinking. ID. Right now. Liam swallowed hard. His two friends at the bar had suddenly become very interested in their phones, completely abandoning him. With shaking hands, Liam reached into his expensive jacket and pulled out a leather wallet. He handed his driver's license over to Sarah. Sarah took the ID. Liam. She read the name out loud. Okay, Liam. Hang tight right there. She pulled the radio off her shoulder. Dispatch, this is 14 X-ray. Can I get a name and a date of birth check? She read off Liam's information. Now, this is the part of the story where Karma proves that she is not only real, but she has an impeccable sense of comedic timing. For about 60 seconds, Liam stood there, sweating through his expensive cologne. Emma, Olivia, and Isla were watching with rapt attention, sipping their drinks, enjoying the absolute finest theater Chicago had to offer. The radio crackled. 14 X-ray dispatch. Your subject returned suspended. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Suspended license. Interesting. How'd you get here tonight, Liam? I took an Uber, Liam lied, his voice high and tight. Dispatch, the radio crackled again. Be advised, your subject has an active, extraditable bench warrant out of Cook County. Ha! Cha-ching! Sarah didn't even smile. She'd just slowly lowered the radio and looked at Liam. Liam looked like he was about to pass out. A warrant? That's impossible. That's a mistake. It's unpaid parking tickets. I swear. I just forgot to pay them. And there was this one court date for a public intoxication thing last year, but I thought my lawyer handled it. He was rambling. He was snitching on himself. It was glorious. Well, Liam, Sarah said, reaching into the back of her belt and unlatching her handcuffs. The metal made a sharp, distinct clink-clink sound that echoed in the quiet bar. It seems the right man has finally come along, and his name is the Honorable Judge of Cook County. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. You've got to be kidding me, Liam whined, his voice completely devoid of any previous bravado. He looked around the bar for sympathy, but the regulars were just watching, smirking. His own friends had actually paid their tab and were quietly slipping out the front door, abandoning ship. You're arresting me because I hit on your girlfriend? I'm arresting you because you have an active bench warrant, Liam, Sarah said, stepping forward. Officer Mike flanked him, grabbing Liam's arm with a massive hand and spinning him around with effortless ease. But hitting on my girlfriend and insulting my uniform certainly didn't motivate me to look the other way. Hands behind your back. Click, click, the cuffs went on. You have the right to remain silent, Sarah began reading him his rights as she patted him down. Anything you say can and will be used against you. As they began marching him toward the door, Liam looked back over his shoulder at Emma's booth. He looked defeated. He looked humiliated. Emma raised her martini glass in a toast. She didn't say a word. She just gave him that same polite, tight-lipped smile she had given him 20 minutes ago and took a sip. Olivia leaned out of the booth and yelled, "Hey, Liam, do you want us to put that double Macallan in a to-go cup for you?" The bar erupted into laughter. Even Officer Mike let out a booming chuckle as he pushed Liam through the front doors and out into the freezing Chicago night toward the waiting squad car. Sarah lingered for just a second. She leaned down, gave Emma a soft, lingering kiss on the lips. "See you at home, babe," Sarah smiled. "Keep the drinks on his tab." "Will do, officer," Emma purred. And they did. Tommy the bartender gladly kept the tab open, and Liam funded the rest of their celebratory girls' night out before he spent the weekend sleeping on a stainless steel bench in lockup. And can there be a better ending than that? The sheer arrogance to tell a gay woman that she just needs the right man, only to have her literal police officer girlfriend show up and cart you off to jail. It's the chef's kiss perfection. Mwah! Karma was working overtime in Chicago that night. If you love that story as much as I did, and you love seeing entitled people get exactly what they deserve, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. Do you have a story of unbelievable audacity? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and your story might just be featured in the next video. Until next time, stay safe, trust your instincts, and never let anyone tell you who you are. See you in the next one.